If you want to sow seeds, you have to prepare the ground.
Today I am so happy to be talking to Patrick McCormack. Patrick is an old friend, an organic farmer and a poet. He is a passionate voice for the messages that nature and Ireland's philosophers and mystics are trying to express. I'm also delighted to be able to do this very special Nature Magic interview in person, at a correct social distance, of course, for the first time as lockdown regulations have eased. Please excuse the wind and leaves knocking off the microphone. The conversation was recorded at St. Patrick's Well on Patrick and Cheryl McCormack's farm in the Burren, County Clare, in the west of Ireland, and I hope Patrick's inspiring and deeply considered words will spread far and wide. Welcome, Patrick McCormack. Hi, Patrick. Thanks so much for talking to us today. I'm really happy to be talking to Patrick. Can you tell us where we are?
Well, we're over here in the ash trees. And actually, the old address of the place is Pound na Lower, and which means the hole of the leopard. And we're here in a little cove in the woods. It's by a blessed well called Bullaghmore Padre, St. Patrick's Well. Down through the years, people would have come here. There was a cure for the eyes here. People had come here 2 Thursdays on a Monday, or 2 Mondays on a Thursday, and there was a set of prayers associated with this well, but unfortunately they died with a neighbour, Michael Grady, over the road here. And I wasn't here in time to collect them, but it is a lovely little corner here, and still an odd person comes, actually there's a woman, God be good to her, Kathleen Lynch in Kilfenora, that claimed she was cured here. She got some fungus in her eyes when she was a young woman, but she always credited to being cured here. Just nearby, that was Temple Padraig. It's Temple Padraig.
Okay, so we're near Kilnaboy,
yes,
which is in the Burren,
yes,
County Clare.
Yes.
How did you become a nature lover?
Well, no, that's a very sweeping question. But at the same time, I suppose, it's I would say that I cherish being alone in the barn. I cherish the times I would have spent alone on those hills. And I would hope that, this journey we have through life, it's about learning how to be in the world, how learning, I would hope with God's help to learn in life's journey how to love the world, and how to love nature, and how to love where I am. And it is a life's journey, and it's something that we have to get up every morning, we have to learn to do. But I would always hope that I'm in that conversation.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, and introduce yourself and what you do in the Burren and your farm and everything you have?
Yes. Well, farming is my passion. It's what I do. It's all I know. The minute I step out of our home, I step into a 6-acre field, and we don't have any tarmac or concrete or anything like that. And so it is. It's what I do. It's calving cows, lambing ewes, sowing a garden, And as a farmer, I suppose, I look up at those hills there, and there's way on top of that ledge up there in Slieve na Glusha, there are old graves up there, older than the pyramids of Egypt. And I always felt like there was a sense of awe and astonishment to say that I'm here in that long, long, long human story going back 8,000 years, walking those hills. I would say that this landscape, I received it in pristine condition, and it is a challenge to pass it on in the same condition with the way the world is and all that's happening in the world, and I suppose the attitudes, the herbicides, the pesticides, the chemicals that we have at our disposal. We've arrived at a point in the 21st century more or less by chance, so it's what I do, and it's.
Do you have a favourite plant or animal that you'd like to tell us about?
Again, like that is a sweeping question. I love all plants. I love all animals. I think in the Burren, like one of the wonderful things about being in the Burren, like you know, we're after out in those hills. We herd cattle up in those mountains, and the first thing we look for is the blue grass, because the old people used to say when the blue grass, or the Canavan they used to call it, would come, the worst of the winter would be over. Like so, when that little blue grass would start to appear in the first week of March, and maybe a very mild spring, the last days of February, a little bit of excitement would happen, like, because the cattle were getting just that little bit of nutrients to take them over the next few hungry weeks. And of course, then we're all waiting for the gentian. The gentian, my God, like, and you'd see that incredible blue coming out of the Burren, because the Burren is actually shorn out of its colour at that time of the year. Like, there's nothing only brown and dark, and you see this blue, like the most incredible blue. Actually, it is said, like, the mystics will tell us, like, that's the first colour we meet when we pass over on the other side. Is that colour is the first thing we'll see. Like, the gentian, the wonderful thing again, like you can see the volume, the next that will arrive will be the early purple orchid. And of course, this is the most incredible thing. Each wave of flowering during the year, like each wave of flowering, like the burnet rose is one of my favourites.
My favourite.
Is it? Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and it lasts so short. Like it blooms for 2 weeks. Like the potentilia down by the Turlock is in bloom now. Like it's the hawthorn. My God, when the hawthorn comes in blossom, like the blackthorn. So like it's literally like it's like to be part of the spring rising. To be part of the spring rising. To be part of the energy, the colour of the celebration of life itself. Like cripes, it's like you could literally go cracked. Like you really think about it, dwell about it. It's marvelous.
It is marvellous. And you were telling me one day about your love for the peregrine falcon and the symbol of the peregrine with its depth of vision and focus. So there's peregrine falcons around.
Yes, yeah.
Here.
Well, it's the peregrine falcon. I always say the nest in the cliff up there. I always say they were my life's greatest teachers, and it's just that they're they soar so high in the sky, like the way their vision is something like 15 times that of ours, and they migrate for the maybe to the coast or wherever for the winter. And then in the springtime, there'd be about the nest. You hear this cry, this eerie cry of the falcon, like, but it really, I can feel the rush of blood, when I hear them, like, And of course, the skylark in the mountains, my God, like, the skylark, that little, my God, how she belts out her song all summer long, like, how it's incredible, really, like, and, they all have, we always look for the omens as well. Like it's I see, for instance, a heron flying towards the mountain. If it's flying low towards the mountain, it's a sign of rain. We'd be looking for all these signs. If the water in is close to the river or the pools, it's a sign of a dry year, because the water in was never cut out. Like So we look for all these signs, like, but the omens are there, like, even the little stoat that crosses, in front of us on the road. Like, I never saw a stoat without a little bit of luck coming my way, a financial luck, coming my way. Like, so I always look at the stoat as good luck.
Good luck.
So there's all these little omens out there, and
So we had a pine marten the other day. He came very close to the house, and she did actually. She ran across the canopy of the trees. Sycamore trees. I think she was looking in the crows' nests.
Yes, I bet
she was. I don't know if
yes.
she was giving us any sort of an omen.
Yes. Actually, they moved into my grandmother's house. It's vacant at the moment up the road there last year. And, of course, they destroyed really, like, But some of the family anyway organised the trapper and so forth. Like, but I got up in the middle of the night, I just couldn't sleep. Like, and I just, they had a magpie inside in the trap. Like, but I went up and opened the door, got the key, and just opened it off the unfortunate magpie and it off. Took out the trap. Like, I just couldn't think of the idea of it, of she, because she had her young inside in the house, but she literally destroyed it. Like,
you should have put a teddy in the trap.
Probably, like, but it's just, it's just to be part of that, like, and William Wordsworth said one time, like, and I don't hold the high moral ground here, like, but he had a wonderful line where he says, nature never betrays the heart that loves her, like, so, like, we have to, to be part of it, like, and to realise, like, we're living with this old COVID-19 virus at the moment, like, and I think we have to realise, like, that part of it is nature fighting back, like, because the world is so incredible, like, we humans think we have all the answers, like, but, like, we're only mere little grains of sand, like, drifting, like, living in hope, like, the force of that universe, like, it's like, I often say, it's like a virus when it comes into a healthy body. What will the healthy body do? Well, it will kick in the immune system and it will push the virus off. Like, but when we humans, over 7 billion of us, becomes a parasite, like, it's only common sense what's going to happen. Like, the force of that, the sheer force of that energy of nature and the power of the universe will push that parasite, which is the human person, slowly off the planet, like, and that is why I would have concerns about the human story, really, like, I would have concerns right now with the human story because, like, we only arrived here by circumstance, like, but to see what we have at our disposal, the machinery we have at our disposal, like, life itself on the planet is becoming a delicate plant, like, so we have really to look in the mirror, like, as to what's happening and where we're going, like, it's actually in 1997 I tell this story sometimes, like, Voyager 1, the spacecraft was launched 40 years ago. It has travelled, we're told, 13 billion, not 13 million, but 13 billion miles out there in the universe. And it's still sending photographs back to the Earth. But when it travelled 6.5 billion miles out there, they had some technology at the time, 40 years ago. We probably have more technology in our keys for starting the car now. It's just to turn the camera around and take a picture of planet Earth in among the rest of the planets. And it showed planet Earth just as a grain of sand drifting. And inside that grain of sand, there were 7 billion human beings living with millions of other animals and creatures of different sorts. There's an ocean strapped around us, held together by the force of gravity. And it was, as we stand here at this very moment, we're travelling at 6,600 miles per hour around the sun. And the chance, and the Earth is rotating on its own axis at 1,000 miles an hour. Like. So the chance that we are here, like, the chance that we're standing here, the chance that we are here among the trees today, like, it's 1 in a billion, like. So to be, that's why we should be always in awe of life and the wonder of life, and, like, to be part of that conversation with nature, like, it should never ever be trivialized in any shape, way, or form, like. It's just a wonder of life, like, and, like, it's the magic of that, like, the potentiality and the possibility of life. My God, like, it's to be alive today and to cherish the planet, to cherish the generosity of the planet is something that, it should be before us, behind us, and all around us every day of our lives.
That's a great message, and I think we underestimate the intelligence of nature.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We underestimate it.
It's a different intelligence, but it's less than ours.
Well, as John Moriarty would say, between intelligence, we wait.
Yeah. We should wait a bit more.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So you did talk about spirituality. Have you had any spiritual experiences in nature in particular? Maybe you've spoken already about this with the well and
yeah,
anything that comes to mind.
Well, I would hope that every time I walk up those hills there is a spiritual experience, really, like. And as I said, like, you know, all the time we look for omens. You know, I always associate, like, a few times, like, with birds especially, like, in you'd lose a friend or something, they always come, like, whether it's the robin or a sparrow. But again, the peregrine falcon would be, you know, the biggest challenges in my life, like, they would have come, like, at different periods, like, you know, and I know the message they came with, like, you know, and more or less saying that everything was going to be all right, like, you know. But, like, it's even the rock that we're sitting on, like, you know, it's, you know, the depth, the density, the age of it, like.
It has a spirit.
It has a spirit, like, you know. There's a story told about Michelangelo, the famous artist in the 16th century, when he done the King David in the Louvre Museum in Paris, and when he got all this adulation of the incredible piece of art it is, like, all he said was, like, sure, all I done, he said, was revealed what was already released and revealed what was already within the stone, like, you know. So, like, I would say, like, you know, that we were lucky enough in the Burren here to have people like John O'Donohue and Michael Cusick and writers and visionaries like John used to say, like, you know, that his whole ethos in life was the sacredness of matter, really. Like.
His whole ethos in life was the sacredness of matter.
Yeah. Is there any saint that's special to this land or to you that you might call on for help? I've been calling on St. Francis lately to help me with herding, so he is very helpful.
The secret is to stay in with them all. That's my only advice. Like. That was the advice my neighbour gave me. Poor James Howard got to be good too. Stay in with them all, he said, like, you know. So,
that's very good.
You know, but,
I was trying to get a cow and a calf in from a big meadow, and I asked St. Francis, because everyone asks St. Anthony constantly for things. So St. Francis actually likes herding.
Yes,
I found that.
Well, actually, doesn't a day go, like, but if I was being pushed, like, I'd mic up to the old fort or a wage 2, I do it constantly, like, and say, boys, now, come on, you've watched me suffering with the last hour. Any chance of little hand?
Really? Yeah.
Sure as Christ, it works, like.
It does work. I was standing in the middle of the field with this wild cow and calf, and no one to help, no one to ring. It was Sunday. And I said, St. Francis, if you're not busy, could you please help me? And a lot of swifts came down around the cow, and she walked straight up to the gap in the far corner of the field and out into the barn.
You see, there is another way, like.
So I can recommend him.
There is another way, like, you know. Maybe I might give him a rest for a while.
Do you know Bob Flaherty? Have you met Bob?
I do know Bob, yes.
So Bob had lost his cow. Anyway, he was telling me, I lost the cow. We can't find her anywhere at all. Can't find her. And I said, well, have you asked St. Francis? Because he likes herding. And he said, no. I said, well, come on, ask him. Dear St. Francis, please can you see if you can find the cow? And the phone went off in his pocket. And it was David, his son. I was like, Bob, I found the cow. She was down at the tide.
Yeah, just say, ask and you will receive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the next question really is, what actions can you recommend for just anybody really that might help nature?
Yeah, well, that's, I suppose, like, in many ways, we have to prepare the ground, like, you know, you have to do the groundwork. Like, if you want to sow seeds, you have to prepare the ground, like, you know. Like, we live in such a strange time, like, you know, you'd say, how can we shift, like, you know, how can we shift the focus? You know, because to be honest, like, the whole education system, like, it's all geared to take something from the planet, like, to be successful, you know, in monetary terms, like, for careers, like, you know. So how can we shift the focus, like, on putting something back into the art, like, and I haven't the answers, like, you know, but, like,
I think that's a great message to prepare the ground.
Like, but Brian McMahon, the Irish writer, said one time, like, actually he was speaking about the Irish language, he said, no idealistic goal can be achieved through fear. It needs to be inspired by some kind of contagious or dynamic love. And, like, you know, somewhere on those paths, like, but to engage in real conversation. And how do you do that? Real conversation, because things happen out of conversation. Instead of talking to our phone, real conversation. Meeting, like Martin Buber, he was a Jewish philosopher, said one time, like, all great living is about meeting. Like, so to nurture that point of meeting, like when you meet a landscape, even when you meet another human being, nurture that point and make it, like when you get up this morning, the sun is shining and the breeze is blowing today, like, nurture that meeting. Like, it's nurture it, like, someone said, like, your soul is the point you meet the world at, like, but make it an incredible meeting, like, when you meet that landscape, the Burren is not maybe this year with the COVID, but there's a lot of people come to the Burren now, like, because we hear, oh, I love the Burren, I love the Scandal, I love the Cliffs, I love Doolin or Kinbarrow, or whatever, like. But again, that's a sweeping statement, like, but to really, the world of nature, like, I would describe it like as it's something you have to let flow to you.
You have to give it time and space.
It has to really work on you, like. And I mean, I'm not trying to hold the high moral ground or anything like that. It's a bit like the Holy Spirit, like, it's not something you can go out and buy and experience. It's something you have to sit back, like, let it flow to you, like, And, I mean, it is easy to talk grand words like this. It's a challenge, like, life is a challenge, like, the challenge of living itself is a challenge, that's going on, like, but like, somewhere in our hearts, like, we have to search for those avenues, like, somewhere in our hearts, like, we have to reach for that. That's not something, we have to reach for those avenues and let this world flow to you, like, that's the best way.
That's a brilliant message. It's a brilliant message. And we were talking about earlier that everybody has important things to say.
Absolutely. Everyone has a story to tell.
Everybody should have a voice.
Absolutely.
So the more conversations.
And stories, like, really stories are the cornerstone of every culture. I'm a believer in that. I'm a believer in the story. John Moriarty says, don't ask, is the story true or false? Just leave it on the latch. But the stories are the cornerstones. And everyone has a story to tell. And everyone should be given that platform. We listen to so much. My God, tonight, like, when you see the rubbish, the conversation that's in the media, when you see the, talking about short buttons, talking about silly films, talking about, the absolute rubbish that's out there, like, to detox yourself from all that. Like, it's just, like, the ads, the shows, it's absolutely soul destroying, spirit destroying. No chance for the human person to develop or to grow or to be part of something real. It's we have to go back to the natural. We have to go back. To see the human person really, Mary, we need ritual and routine. Like, for instance, like, we've watched them say maybe the fall of religions, and often religions, like, in many ways they were guilty of distraction, some of them, but yet it was ritual.
It was a framework.
It was a framework, and rituals are important. And education now is trying to fill that void, and it isn't the words or the language to do so. So, like, there's a generation literally lost. So, how is that going to begin, or how is that going to change? I'm not sure. But conversation, we have to engage in conversation.
Is a start.
Is a start.
Yeah, and as we can see, things can change
Of course
overnight. As we witnessed it in the last couple of months,
Absolutely.
everything has changed. Yes. So my next question is, do you have any nature book or particular book that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
There's so many of them, like, but I mean, one I remember reading Lopez. He's a North American writer. Arctic Dreams was kind of a life changer. Like, I think that was an incredible rich book. Like, I'd recommend it to anyone. Colin Tudge, Social We Reap, wonderful book. Even the introduction to it is worth reading. Just buying it for the introduction. It's fabulous. I like John Moriarty. the psychology, like John O'Donohue. I'd, but those ones on Lopez, out in the Arctic in Hudson Bay and up there, and his descriptions of wildlife was just incredible, but it's those are a couple that I would recommend.
Thank you.
There's many more.
And you're friends with John O'Donohue.
Yeah, John wrote, of course, Anam Cara. We can't mention Anam Cara was just Anam Cara was, I think was
So Anam Cara, for listeners not in Ireland, means...
Yes, yeah, soul friend.
Soul friend.
Yeah. And it's but every culture has their books, but it's just we need to go back reading and go back talking and go back telling.
So if you had a magic wand, what would you do for the planet right now?
Well, I suppose plastic is our gift to the world, isn't it? Our generation gift to the world.
I'm hoping there's a use for it. We can reabsorb it.
Oh my God! It's just. In the farming industry, and if I may just talk in general about it, as a farmer, and as a food producer, when I grew up, every farm was a little industry. Nothing was specialised. You had your 4 or 5 milking cows, or my father, he had 8, God be good to him. And you had your few sheep, and you had your pig, and you had your chickens, and you had your garden. And now, of course, it's gone self, it's, you either milk 200 cows, or you don't milk at all. You have 500 sheep, or you don't have sheep at all, or you have 100 suckling cows, or you don't have cows at all. So it's gone so specialised, you see.
So extreme.
And then, in that extremeness, we have lost, good husbandry because of the scale. We have lost, because of the herbicides and the pesticides and the scale of what we're producing. The only way we can, there's something like now 1 labour unit per 1,000 hectares, is not out of the norm, and that's only done with chemicals, So, in many ways, a lot of these biotech companies and a lot of these chemical companies has infiltrated our education system. And there's a belief out there that grass wouldn't grow without nitrogen. It's one of the things that I change in the morning is actually ban the use of nitrogen, because it has made and put farming back as a business again. Because the people that are funding at the agricultural colleges, many times they're IFI fertilizers, so he who pays the piper calls the tune, So, it's farming is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. We put out more nitrogen than probably any other country in the world, and per hectare, and it's the safety of that, what it's doing to the waterways. What I've seen in my lifetime. As a child, we fished the rivers and the lakes in North Clare. Lakeene Lake, it supplies water to all of North Clare. There was brown trout and Arctic char in it 25 years ago. There's none left now. The Arctic char survived the last ice age, and they're gone now. There was only 2 or 3 lakes in Ireland that were in it, and it's gone. And it's gone because of bad farming practices and local authorities washing out systems with aluminium salts, and planting these spruce trees along the shore.
Okay, the sickness spruce. It's taking the aluminium out of the stone.
Out of the stone, the soil, and washing it into the water. And that is why one of the levels of aluminium in Lakeene Lake has went up by 4%. It was 4 or 5 times above the European safety net, But that was kept, it was an international scandal, But our performance is not good, Between 1960 and 1984, over 30% of the archaeological sites in the Burren were bulldozed, paid for by the National Exchequer and EU funding, So our record is not good, But the whole ethos, the herbicides, the pesticides, the volume of chemicals that we use in agriculture is mind-boggling, you see. And it's down because, we have to make farming a business again, and we have to go back, to the to the solid principles of sound biology and basic common sense. Really, and unless we have a conversation around it, where is the truth going to come from? This is the question. Where is the truth going to come from? Because you can believe nothing.
Yeah.
my grandmother is saying, like, believe nothing you hear and half of what you see, like, but Jesus, like, never was it more relevant, like, because, any report that comes out, like, I mean,
So paid for by the person who wants...
that wants to sell his product, like, So it's wonderful to have science, and it's wonderful to have the antibiotics, but science needs to be directed. Science needs to be directed, like, because if it's not, like, it's like, we can see what, we're killing ourselves, like, and will the human story continue? Like, I would have reservations about it, like, but going back to the initial question, if I had
you've got rid of nitrogen. Did you do that?
Yes. I'd address the whole slurry thing as well. Raw slurry is not good science, and there was farmers getting 70% funding for putting up slatted houses in the Burren, and where's that water going? Like, where's the slurry going? Like, where is it going? Like, it's put out in hilly land where there's only a few inches of soil to absorb it. Like, and again, I would question, like, the whole ethos and thinking about it. Like, I mean, it's not, it's not making the science behind it is absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy, like, and
the plastic.
And the plastic. Like. Yeah. So nitrogen, raw slurry, plastic are three things that...
Thank you very much for getting rid of them.
Tell me shut up now.
No, it's not at all. But I think it's really important that people get a voice, and that's why the podcasts are so...
Yeah, and I mean, it's maybe... I don't intend to... I don't, like, believe in holding the high moral ground or have the answers for everything, like...
But it's a conversation.
It is a conversation, and I always valued, like, I'm a free person.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a free person, and there's people that has that at houses, good friends of mine and all that, and that's fine, that's their opinion, but this is mine, like, and like, it's what's happening, like, it needs to stop, it needs to change. We have to put a different plan in place, like, we have to... I often say, as a farmer, the biggest drawback I have, I'm dealing with a public that's 95% ignorant of how food is produced. Maybe if we had a more enlightened consumer, they might demand food coming from different areas, you see. Like. And I think that is the whole problem, that we are dealing with this public that doesn't know anything about how food is produced. Like,
but I think that's exactly it. So what even the Burren Nature Sanctuary, trying to get people in to nature is the first step. Because, you can't fall in love with someone you haven't met. You have to bring them there and give people a reason to be in nature. And once they meet nature or a plant or an animal, a rabbit, a goat, then they start to care about it and are interested in conservation. And it all goes from there.
It opens
but
an
it's
avenue
engaging people, the initial step, which is so difficult.
But I mean, we came to our little garden over there, and I often say, like, to people, like, if I was to measure in financial terms what I put into that, I couldn't even make €1 an hour.
And it's not a little garden; it's a whole field of vegetables that Patrick has planted.
But the point I'm making is, like, if I was to measure that in financial terms, like, meanwhile, you cannot put a price on good food.
Yeah.
You cannot, and we have replaced in the West, like, the Western ethos, like, we've replaced. If we go back when I was growing up, like, we've replaced good food with medication. Every town has 2 or 3 pharmacies. Like, we've replaced good food with medication. There was one pharmacy out of Wires and Ennistimon when I was growing up, like, and now they're all over the place. Like, so, well, it's great to have
use them where, exactly.
Yes, it's great to have them. We use it sensibly, like,
use it sensibly.
But we have to go back to growing real food again, eating real food again. Anyway, up Ireland. Anyway.
Up Ireland, up Clare, up Galway. Up. I hope they didn't hear me. But thank you so much, Patrick. Because, I mean, there's been 11 interviews so far, and 2 people have already mentioned Patrick. And Patrick's a farmer in the middle of the Burren. So a voice that is inspiring has already inspired a lot of people. So hopefully this message will go far and wide. And thank you so much again, Patrick.
Thank you for listening to Nature Magic. We're thrilled with all the feedback and happy to say we reached number 1 in Ireland in the podcast Nature category. A big thank you to all the listeners. Burren Nature Sanctuary is now open from Wednesdays to Sundays 10 till 6. all our staff have completed COVID-19 Vulture Island Safety Charter training. The feedback about our new one-way system and social distancing measures has been positive so far. Everyone has seemed happy and even kind enough to have given us a few more 5-star ratings on Google and Facebook. Some exciting news is the Nature Magic book will be launched on Amazon on the 28th of July, so drop us a note to join the pre-launch team and get it at the amazing price of 99¢ on launch day. Find out about all our strategies to engage people with nature, from the fairy pig walk to school tours, how to meet wild herbs, make natural skincare, or even make a free audio app for your local nature walk. We aim to tackle the biodiversity crisis one step at a time. The first step is getting people back to nature. For any questions or suggestions, I can be contacted at mary@burrennaturesanctuary.ie. Thank you.